Hello and welcome back to another FPL team selection video. This one is coming out on a Tuesday because we do have midweek games this week, which I hadn't actually noticed until yesterday. So very last minute trying to put these videos together, but we are good to go. We will still have game week 15 stuff out as always, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So nothing really to worry about there in terms of scheduling. Last week for our team, we ended up with 78 points, which would normally be a really good game week. However, none of my differentials really did too great. The points mainly came from Salah, Palmer and Saka, which I am now very thankful that I did bring them in, because obviously Haaland blanked again, and I would have been killed even more had I not brought in these three players. And obviously we brought Saka in last week over the weekend for Semenyo, which was a very nice transfer. Semenyo is the plan to come back next week for Mbuemo, and yeah, I've managed to gain about 0.4 million on that transfer, and of course 18 points, which is fantastic. We've obviously got Saka playing this week too, so a rank of 2 million now. Only rose about 400,000 places, so not too great. I think in the grand scheme of things I did, from seeing everyone's teams on Twitter and stuff, 80 to 90 points seem to be about the average. So just a little bit below. Obviously none of my players outside of the premiums really done too great. Once again, the defence massively disappointing. Huge shock, you bring Pedro Porro back into the team and he gets a 2-pointer. That's just seems to be how it goes. 8 Nuri with the 0-pointer. Thankfully there was no bench problems. My bench was pretty poor as well, so nothing really to worry about there. But yeah, as I said, it's basically the premiums that were the only ones to get points. We held on to Chris Wood. He got a 9-pointer, which was great. We also held on to Alex Moreno for this game against Ipswich, and he was benched, which was extremely unfortunate, because Forest ended up keeping a clean sheet, which is again what we basically expected. It's just a shame that Moreno wasn't able to be part of it. But we move on. Moreno's probably going to take third place in the bench for the foreseeable, because I don't plan on using any transfers to get him out. He's just going to be there until Forest get any better fixtures. I don't have to worry about price drops or anything because he's not owned very highly whatsoever. But let's jump into our transfer for this week. So this week is finally the week we get rid of Chris Wood. Is just not great fixtures for him coming up. He's got Man City and then a couple of difficult ones after that. Wouldn't be surprised if he scored against Man City this week, but I'm not gonna gamble on it, because his fixtures aren't too great, and he probably would have been benched this week anyways. So he will probably come back into the team again in a couple of weeks because he's been absolutely fantastic. But I don't want to hold on to him for too long, to the point where he just blanks for ages and then he just becomes annoying and I fall out with him, and it kind of ruins everything that he's done for me over the past few weeks. So he's coming out. We're bringing in Mateus Cunha from Wolves, who still have a really nice run of fixtures. Now, if you watched my transfer tips video a couple of weeks ago, I did mention about avoiding Cunha at that time, because one, I did slightly prefer Strand Larsen for value, and two, I didn't think he was doing well enough in terms of underlying stats to do too great. I've now since changed my opinion. I can show you now. I did heavily consider also getting in Strand Larsen. I was putting both of them side by side. I wanted a new striker in. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford Nicholas Jackson. I was very much wanting to get him in. Was unable to afford that unless I took like a -8, which I didn't want to do. So Cunha was coming in, or Larsen, and I was looking at them both side by side, and Cunha does just look like a better pick. The idea is, with Strand Larsen, is he's just a lot better value. You're talking about $1.5 million cheaper than Cunha is. I was planning for my transfers over the next 5 or 6 weeks, and I didn't really need the extra budget, so I was just looking at who was the better player. So looking at the underlying stats, Cunha's got essentially double the shots taken that Strand Larsen does. In terms of shots inside the box, he is still ahead, but it is very close. Again, looking at the expected goals, Cunha is ahead, but it is still very close. Expected assists is where there is a big gap, 2.41 for Cunha, only 0.5 for Strand Larson. For key passes, it's all Cunha, again 23 to 8, and the only stat where Larson actually does win is big chances. Larson has 8 big chances this season, and Cunha only has 3. For big chances created, Cunha's on 9 and Strand Larson's on 3. So Cunha is very clearly the better striker, but again, in terms of XG and shots inside the box, it's still very close. So I do still think Strand Larson is a very nice pick for budget. I don't think you desperately need Cunha if you maybe find a transfer somewhere that you can't afford. I definitely think you could easily go with Strand Larson over Cunha, but for me, with budget not really being an issue over the next few weeks, I'm just going to go for Cunha. So that's leaving me with a team that looks like this. Now, Flecken in goals, Porro, Aït-Nouri, Digne. We're kind of keeping, the same defence as it has been for the previous couple of weeks. A lot of away fixtures in there as well. So everything's telling me that this is going to be another week of 1-2 pointers in defence. Digne, the only one with a decent fixture against Brentford at home. Chances are, now that I've said that, he's going to end up getting benched again. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. The defence isn't looking too great. We're really looking for attacking returns from those guys, because I don't think there's going to be any, if many, clean sheets. In midfield, we're looking fine. Obviously get the Newcastle, obviously get the Salah, Palmer, Saka. Palmer's going to be the captaincy. Spoke about it already in the captaincy video as to why. Fairly straightforward. I think Palmer is going to be the most captain player this week anyway, so no real gains probably to be made. And from those three in general, because they are a very popular midfield three now, with basically everyone having sold Haaland. I'm keeping Mbeumo for now. I'll speak about the bench headache in a little second. Then obviously we've got Morgan Rogers as well against Brentford at home. So 2 Aston Villa players. Debatably one of the easiest fixtures of the game week. I do think Watkins could do really well this week. Brentford are first for chances conceded down the middle, so if anyone has extra money to go for a 1 week punt and you want to get rid of maybe Chris Wood or Isak due to his slight injury concerns, really like the look of Ollie Watkins this week, and a definite captaincy option if you were really feeling ballsy and you want to go for a big rank gain. Watkins could definitely be the one for that. Up front, obviously Cunha, now it's 7.1 million, so he is now a fairly expensive striker. I believe he started the season at 6.5, up to 7.1 now. And I have kept Jimenez purely because he plays Arsenal and Liverpool in the next 2. He's got Brighton at home in this game. I think he could do something in this game, so I didn't want to take a -4. As I mentioned already, I couldn't afford Nicholas Jackson. I've only got 0.6 in the bank, so there's no real players that I can go for other than potentially a Brighton striker, João Pedro or a Welbeck, but they're obviously playing against Fulham. Now, Fulham have a better defence than Brighton do, and Fulham are playing at home, so I've decided it's not going to be worth it to get rid of Jimenez, so I'm going to keep him. They have Arsenal and Liverpool in the next 2, as I already mentioned, and again, looking at my planner and stuff, I'm just going to bench him. He's going to go second on the bench. Him and Alex Moreno are going to take the bench for a couple of weeks, and then I can bring him back. And he has Southampton at home, and then a couple of weeks after that, he's got Leicester, he's got Ipswich, he's got West Ham. So nice fixtures for him after the next couple of weeks. So he's just going to take the bench. He's only 5.6 million at the end of the day. He's still really cheap. So he's gonna just drop to the bench for me, and hopefully he can outscore any Brighton attackers for the midweek games. Obviously, as you can see, we have our bench of Rico Lewis and Alexander Isak. Isak has just not really done too much since I've brought him in, which was I think 2 weeks ago, and against Liverpool I'm not expecting him to do anything either. It is a home fixture still, and it is one of those fixtures where Newcastle usually do perform, but he is going to take the bench. I think it's just the smart decision. I really wouldn't look to play him over any of my midfielders or attackers this week, so he's going to be in the bench. Then for Rico Lewis, I do have a bench headache graphic coming up in a little second, but a Nottingham Forest fixture, obviously City haven't been great over the last few weeks. It's one of those ones where Forest should score. Lewis hasn't got more than like a 2-pointer in the last 4 weeks either, so I'm not really too worried about missing out on him. As you can see with our graphic though, we do have, you know, return chances and like their opponents and stuff. So for return chances, it is Jimenez with the highest chance of a return. These were the 3 players I was potentially looking at benching. Jimenez has the highest return chance, then it's Lewis with 50%, and then it's Mbeumo down at 40%. So this is where I did start to question myself. Do I want to go for Mbeumo on the bench against Aston Villa, who hasn't been great really since Wissa has returned, and he's playing a little bit further back, or Rico Lewis at 50%? He's got a higher chance of returning. Now, against the opponent, obviously Nottingham Forest have the one of the best defences in the league. Not that really matters too much for Rico Lewis being a defender slash midfielder, but they are still 15th for XG, which is still pretty low. You know, they're the 6th worst attack in the league by expected goals. So as clean sheet odds go, as Man City with, or not clean sheet odds, as chances to score, or chances to concede the least amount of goals this week. It's not clean sheet odds, but chances to concede the least amount of goals this week. City are number 1, and Forest are the team that are least likely to score the most goals. Sorry for throwing all these stats, but this is just me trying to project all the information. So Lewis is still looking like a nice option by the stats. Obviously we don't have to worry too much about the chances conceded or anything, as he is a defender. So Lewis is still looking like a decent option if you want to go by the statistics. Don't really need to speak about Jimenez too much. I think he's still a good option. 72 chances down the middle for Brighton, which is a pretty decent amount. You know, it's quite a lot. So Jimenez was definitely, after looking at this, definitely going to be playing. When it comes to Mbeumo, though, only a 40% chance of returning up against Aston Villa. He has been playing a lot further back since Wissa has came back. Obviously, while Wissa was out injured, that's when Mbeumo was doing really, really well. Now Mbeumo's playing either as a right wing or a right mid, depending on the formation of Brentford. Now, the reason I've went for Mbeumo right now is because Aston Villa have conceded 40 chances down that side, which is quite a lot. I think it's like 8th in the league, but everyone, like your West Hams, your poorer defences, are sitting about 41, 42 chances down the right hand side, so it's all fairly similar. So I think Mbeumo does have a decent chance to do well this week, but again, I'm not really locked in on that benching, so it could be Lewis, it could be Mbeumo. I think more than likely it is going to be Lewis that does take the bench, because I don't really want to bench Mbeumo, because I know of what he can do. His ceiling's a lot higher than Lewis is as well, and I'm not really too confident on that clean sheet for Man City. So with that being said, this should be the team for game week 14. Let me know if you agree with the benchings and obviously the transfer bringing Cunha in this week. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe as well. We will have everything for game week 15 out this week as well, and then of course we'll have Champions League stuff out over the weekend, so make sure to subscribe for all of that and turn on notifications so you know when all of those videos come out. So once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.